안녕하십니까, 블룸버거 TV입니다. 자, 이제부터는 여러분, 여기 데일리 밀리터리 뉴스라는 게 있어요. 지금 내가 번역기를 돌렸어. 번역기를 안 돌리고 보시면 원문이 이래요. 한번 보여드릴게. 이거거든. 여러분들이 직접 보시면 돼요. 직접 보시면 되고, 직접 번역기 돌리시기 싫으신 분은 제가 이렇게 해놓을 테니까 여러분들 이거 보세요. 지금 핵심 내용은 뭐냐면 내가 이야기했잖아요. 우크라이나 쪽에 재수 없으면 3차 세계대전 벌어진다. 그 전부터 계속 강의를 했잖아. 그 강의에 대한 부분이 현실적으로 지금 나타나고 있어요. 엊그제는 이제 미국 군부대가 이제 배 타고 이렇게 쭉 갔죠. 며칠 전에는. 그리고 이제는 나토, 북태평양조약기구 나토, 쉽게 말하면 유럽 군대가 우크라이나 크림반도 쪽으로 가고 있다는 그게 그 뉴스예요. 그게 팩트예요. 우선 제 사진을 지울 테니까 이거 한번 보세요, 여러분들. 보시면 지금 세계가 어떻게 흘러가는지 알 수가 있어요. 제가 번역기 돌려놨으니 이게 번역되네. 한번 보시면 도움이 될 것 같아요. 우선 제 사진을 지울게요.
Russia has sparked alarm in Ukraine and throughout the international community in recent days by massing its armed forces close to the Ukrainian border. The military buildup has raised fears of a possible Russian offensive that could push beyond the areas of eastern Ukraine currently under Kremlin control and lead to a dramatic escalation in the simmering 7-year conflict between the two countries. Ukraine's Western partners have responded to the threat by voicing their support for Ukrainian sovereignty and calling on Russia to end its aggressive actions. As tensions mounted late last week, NATO sends 1,000 troops to join Ukraine to strengthen its borders. Ukraine armed forces say joining NATO forces for the next few months is a move that is likely to anger Russia's President Vladimir Putin and stoke already heightened tensions with Moscow, which has expressed its opposition to the idea. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said most of Ukraine's military appeared to understand the danger of a hot conflict in Donbass. I very much hope that they will not be incited by politicians, who in turn will be incited by the West, led by the United States, said Lavrov. Russian President Putin said this not long ago, but this statement is still relevant today, that those who would try to start a new war in Donbass will destroy Ukraine. NATO voiced concern on Thursday over what it said was a big Russian military buildup near eastern Ukraine after Russia warned a serious escalation in the conflict in Ukraine's Donbass region could destroy the country. The Kremlin on Friday said any deployment of NATO troops to Ukraine would lead to further tensions near Russia's borders and force Moscow to take extra measures to ensure its own security. Ukrainian troops have battled Russian-backed separatist forces in the eastern Donbass region in a conflict in Kiev since 2014. More than 1,000 military personnel from 5 NATO member countries and will join the Ukrainian military, said the Ukrainian Armed Forces in a statement on Facebook on Saturday. It explained, in particular, defensive actions will be worked out, followed by an offensive in order to restore the state border and territorial integrity of a state that has been subjected to aggression by one of the hostile neighboring countries. Videos circulating on social media have shown large numbers of Russian tanks and other military vehicles on roads close to Ukraine's eastern border with Russia. Another clip showed scores more vehicles on a train, purportedly heading for Crimea, which Russia annexed from Ukraine in 2014. There has been a sharp escalation in fighting and reports of a Russian troop buildup at the border. Efforts to resolve the long-running war in eastern Ukraine have all so far failed. There have been ceasefires, and then, almost inevitably, violations of ceasefires. But a major flare-up in fighting between Russian-backed separatists and Ukrainian troops is now threatening to escalate the conflict beyond anything seen so far. Russia is reportedly massing its troops at the border and warning NATO not to send military support to Ukraine. But the alliance, and the United States, have made it clear that Kiev will not be left alone if Russia launches an offensive in the region. So, is there any chance of lasting peace? The conflict in eastern Ukraine has taken a new turn after fighting surged between government forces and Russia-backed separatists this week. If U.S. intelligence reports are to be believed, Russia has deployed troops along the Ukrainian border and may interfere in the ongoing conflict in support of the separatists. The fighting in Ukraine has been going on since 2014 and things escalated after pro-Russia separatists formed governments in 2 provinces in Ukraine. The recent surge in violence comes in violation of the ceasefire agreement signed between the Ukrainian government and armed separatists. Ukrainian troops are now allowed to use their new American-supplied Javelin anti-tank missiles anywhere in the country and against any party, including against Russian tanks in its eastern Donbass region, as long as they do so for purposes of defending themselves. This revelation follows the Ukrainian army's disclosure that it is preparing to send Javelin-equipped units to the front lines soon. Ukrainian authorities also recently said that they estimate Russia has at least 481 tanks of various types in Donbass, among other heavy weapons. The Ukrainian army could conceivably adopt a similarly broad definition of what constitutes defensive action. For example, a unit in Donbass could conceivably claim to be using javelins defensively in response to a counterattack from Russian-backed separatists, or the Russian forces supporting them, after an initial assault.